This is Quantum Flow Radio, organizing thought particles into a flow of collective consciousness.
Here we are, my friend.
Here we are.
What's new? Or should I say news?
What's news? News.
How's that for a lead-in?
Yeah. North, east, west, south.
Yes, the four corners, even though they're round.
Right.
Or some would argue. It's the wind, it's the direction, it's all of it. And I love when you and I get together for these chats, and we have the opportunity to really just have a place to go and a conversation, something that is a dialogue, two people talking,
right,
without being offended,
no,
without telling anyone anybody's wrong.
Right.
What we do is we just put things out there. We have an open discussion about it, and we invite people to let us know what they think.
Exactly.
And it's basically just, it's a department store. We're putting everything on display, and you can buy what you want.
Exactly. It's the we're here for the benefit of all.
Exactly.
Move your mind, make it open.
Yes.
Awareness. Consciousness.
Just consider it. What if?
What if?
Right? It's a magical question, isn't it?
Yeah. And the news is supposed to bring it to us. Or the media.
Well, supposed to. Yeah. There was a time when they did, though. At least in part.
There was honesty in journalism, news reporting. The media's changed over the years, hasn't it?
Drastically, especially, particularly over the last few years.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's trending faster and getting worse by the minute.
And social media is either helping or not in that process.
Well, I think you know and I know it's probably doing a disservice to us.
Yeah.
In the end, in the beginning, it seems like a great idea, kind of like a lot of things that are brought to us. Mm-hmm. You know, like the Freedom Act. Oh, that sounds great. But the Freedom Act has nothing to do with freedom.
It doesn't.
And the news has nothing to do with news. It's all propaganda, conditioning,
marketing.
Advertising.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Did you ever, there's a guy named Bill Hicks. He's a comedian.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're in advertising, kill yourself.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Just kill yourself.
Yeah.
You serve no purpose.
Bill Hicks, there are those that would say that he has a lot of similarities physically with Alex Jones.
Oh, well, that's a conspiracy.
Yeah, it is, but they still look alike.
Yeah, they do.
I think they do.
That might be a coincidence. That might be a synchronicity that's happening, but I don't think it is the same person. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
So,
I agree with you.
Yeah,
off with his head.
No, but the point here is advertising, propaganda, all this stuff. Mm. There's a hand behind it because people want to influence you into thinking a certain thought.
Right.
And that gets back to kind of like maybe that's what our media, or what I would more classify it as, the mass media. And then even to further the point, there's a mass media bias that's been going on for years, and it's continuing. And I think it's getting greater and greater. Would you allow me to read a quote here? I think it's very, it's spot on for what we're talking about.
And from a magical book. Go ahead.
Well, we'll see here about that. But the quote's from Malcolm X, and I'm not going to do it in his, I wouldn't be able to do justice to the way he says this quote, so I'm just going to read it straight out.
Yeah, and many great quotes from
here's a situation where everything's the opposite. You were told this guy was a disruptor. Mm-hmm. He was a bad guy. But he brought a new level of consciousness. And it wasn't just for black people. It was a humanity message.
Yes.
But he had to bring it through the channels that he knew.
Right.
But listen to this. This guy was brilliant, really. Okay, the media's the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent. Think about that. And that's power, because they can control the minds of the masses. That's pretty, I think this was probably early 60s.
All right, well, we're done.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Well, yeah, we are.
Yeah, so to speak. But thank you for reading that, because it says so much in so little time.
Well, to understand that the media has an agenda, and it's not there just to inform you or make your day great. So let's drill down. The the word media, does that have any? I didn't look it up. I don't know if it has any media, but
You got me on that one.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a wordsmith when it comes to certain things, but that one but in the background here, I'll see what I can find out.
Yeah, see what you can find out. But
yeah.
the media comprises of everything probably that you see, hear, and read through electronic. It can be radio, TV, film, print, newspapers, books, magazines, ads. It's everywhere.
There's no escaping it.
There's no escaping it. And if you're in today's world and you're a consumer of anything, then you're going to encounter the mass media complex, as we call it.
So
when you start adding up, where all this comes from, it's unavoidable, and you're being programmed. And what it's doing, it's making you go out and buy things, acquire things that you really don't need.
No.
That's what it comes down to.
And sometimes don't really want.
There's very few things in life you really do need. Obviously, you need a home, food, normal, shelter,
Yeah.
love,
Clean water.
sure. But most stuff that's advertised to you or brought to you through advertising, through the media, even the information, it's stuff you don't need. It's not urgent.
Yeah.
It's there to actually instill fear and divide us. And that sounds crazy, but there is an agenda where powers that be, and when I talk about the powers that be, the few companies, the corporates, that control the mass media complex.
Yeah.
And I think there's only 5 or 6 of them, similar to like the music industry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they want the scramble. They want the division. They want the noise, the distraction.
Right.
Yeah, because it takes away so many times, and this is as much as well as I do. So many times, if we see a story in the news, look past that story because there's probably something else going on.
It's the story that's not being told. It's all the vital information that brought you that story is not being told to you.
Yeah.
And it's just being told in a biased manner.
And today being, what it is compared to many years ago and, the way that the media was at a certain time back in history. Today I find myself having to research what I hear as news.
Right.
I really can't trust that it's, I don't want to say real, but entirely real or entirely the whole story is being brought to me.
Right.
I can't trust that. And I find myself going to multiple sources all over the globe trying to see what other people are saying about this. And even when you do that, you still don't know.
Their race, class, and wealth warfare has been waged on the public, and it's visibly evident in how the media uses divisive subject matter and separates and divides people. So,
and it's all done on extensive research. They look for the magic word or the magic subject or the magic event or whatever it might be, and capitalize on that. And then they get everybody's feathers ruffled, and then everyone begins to argue about it all. And then all of a sudden they find themselves off doing other things that they their other agenda than what they really wanted to do. So many years ago I'd heard a term. Accuse someone of something you're already doing and then lie about it.
Sure.
And I think in a lot of cases we're seeing much of that, especially today. And it's frightening because we don't really know. And the thing about the media is we seem to have lost the local nature, the community nature of what we had at one time. It's not so much about where you live and the events that are taking place where you live, custom tailored to where you live by the point of origination of those news people where you live, but it's become a national thing and at times an international thing where what's going on in, Anytown, USA is not really covered so much anymore like it used to be.
No.
By their local media. Everybody's taking national feeds. Everybody's, networking. Everybody's, eliminated a lot of the local jobs in broadcasting, and just gone with national feeds that are coming in off of a network layer.
Well, I think with this consolidation, they have more skin in the game, so they have to brainwash you with a more consistent message across the nation. So you could easily go to YouTube and you'll see people have spliced together a news story.
Yeah.
And it's the exact same language.
I've seen
you know,
many of
yeah,
those,
you've
you're
seen
right.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
So I encourage anybody to go that because it's really amazing. It's the same script. Doesn't matter if you're in Illinois, New Orleans, you know, New
Matters
York.
not.
Matters not.
Yeah.
So the local news,
Just different talking faces delivering it.
they have to condition us on the more national, global news because that's how they've pushed us into this. It's a globalization of ideal.
Yeah.
The idealism of us being just like everybody else. Oh, well, we're not, you know.
Yeah.
That's what makes us neat,
Right.
unique, and different.
Exactly.
And that's what kind of makes us interesting to be with different people. If we were all the same, it'd be kind of boring.
Yeah,
But
somebody
it's-
once said, I never learned anything from anyone I ever agreed with. So, you know, that's, I
thought
agree
you
with
said
you. No, well, I just did, but that's why I agree entirely. Because what do you bring to the table? You bring so much more to the table that another person may not bring.
Right.
And so, you know, that's how these relationships get started, you know, among the ancients when we didn't have social media and we didn't have, you know, television and radio networks and things like that. They just sit around the table and talk. Mm-hmm. And it was an open discussion. You know, okay, maybe they'd throw a cup of wine at somebody once in a while, but for the most part, the only way to find out really what was going on was to talk to people. And we've reached a point where we don't do that. We just send a text.
Because most people don't read.
Yeah.
Well, the newsprint seems old-fashioned at this point. So
Right.
everyone's getting their news electronically.
Yeah.
And more to the point, they're getting it through social media.
Yes.
And as I call it, social judgment.
Oh, yeah.
I came up with this. I'm not sure if that term's been thrown around before.
I
but
love it.
Social judgment is what you're experiencing in all the social media. You put something out there, even if it's just a positive thing, and somehow people will interpret it differently because you're not with them.
Yeah.
You can't see their eyes, their body language.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can very much tell if a person's sincere, whether they're truthful or not, by their body language,
Sure.
their eye movement, and how
The
they
emotions.
couch themselves, you know, in front of you. Yeah, yeah. You don't get that through the type of social media where, you know, you're posting something, even if it's a picture, maybe if it's a short video, whatever, but you're still not capturing it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of information gets misconstrued. Most people will read these things in a defensive manner.
Yeah.
And then posture themselves. So it's a separation.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're all looking for, you know, wonderful feedback because that gives us that little bit of, you know, serotonin for that moment.
Sure.
But once that serotonin gets turned off, we're back to where we were, and we're probably in a worse state.
Yeah.
You know,
And-
because
and-
our expectations are running high.
Yeah. And our grammar skills are lacking these days.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. And when
Including
we're
my talking skills. Excuse me. I don't know. Maybe I should take a drink of water here.
well, go ahead, and I'll just pick up here real quick. And where I'm going with this is that when you're dealing with written word rather than spoken word, particularly face to face, it's difficult. And without correct grammatical pronunciations, things that we would put in a conversation, but we don't see it. Parentheses, italics, comma, punctuations, things like that. When we're doing it in written form, everybody seems to be taking shortcuts these days.
And you bring up a really good point, kind of coattailing on that. More than likely, most of these people would not say what they write in person.
Exactly. Sure.
So pretend like you're right there with the person. Would you really put this out there? Would you really say this to this person?
Yeah.
Because the division, when I see people trying to wake up other people to a certain fact on social media or in the news,
Yeah.
they're kind of like trying to hit you over the head with it.
Yeah.
That's not going to work.
No,
Lead
it's
by
not.
example. In fact, the people are going to be more adverse to maybe accepting that information. So this is where we are right now. We've found through just seeing everything how it's unfolding now. We know that the media is filled with misinformation and lies.
Yeah.
I mean, flat out lies. And they're leading us somewhere. And then because of the news, that trickles down into the social media. It's the news happens first, and then everybody has to get their comment in. See?
Yeah.
So they're very much tied to one another.
They are, and you don't know if you're on social media. Let's say whatever it is. Let's say Facebook, and you see a news story that's been posted there or shared by someone. Then like what I have to do, if it's an interesting story, and I think that it needs to be shared or the word spread about it, I can't do that without taking time to investigate. I got to find out, first of all, what's the source? Where's it coming from? And generally, in the old days, we could say, oh, well, it's coming from CBS or NBC or ABC or CNN or Fox or whatever, and we would say, oh, well, that must be true. But we can't go with that anymore.
It's all opinion news.
Yeah.
It's one person's opinion. And so who's making these, who's in charge of making, the news?
And so many times these items are taken out of context.
I follow some alternate, news.
Yeah.
They're outside of the mainstream news. They used to be news reporters. They no longer are able to do their job. They were fired, removed, whatever, but they're a true,
demoted.
Yeah, a true reporter, somebody who actually investigated information, would go out, research something, and come back and be able to put a news story together. That no longer is desired. It's more of a, this is the slant, this is the agenda, go out and write a piece or support the narrative.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. So they're not reporting news, they're purporting the news.
Yeah.
And it's all based with an agenda.
There's the agenda. There's also manipulation. There's also, like as you mentioned, there's also profit. There's also cost. An investigative journalist doing a week-long report is expensive, and if they arrive at a conclusion that's not conducive to the network or whoever it is that's behind it all,
Who owns the network
and
their platform,
then it's squashed.
Yeah.
And it's money lost.
So they have stopgaps. They have your boss or the person, the channel head, somebody sitting there filtering this information. And the other thing that's quite scary is a lot of there's leaks. I don't know how else to say it, but there's leaks, and leaks are pretty bad. Yeah. Sometimes it brings truth. It brings light to hidden things.
Yeah.
So leaks can be good, but sometimes leaks are what's happening now is leaks are being done on purpose through the news media in order to garner a certain position.
Yeah.
And this is horrible because this is completely fake news.
Yes.
It's all made up.
Yeah.
None of it.
Yeah.
None of it is real. None of it makes sense. And the time, the effort, the resources, all the news stories that follow certain news, narratives. It's amazing. It means nothing.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with you except maybe to make you confused.
Confused, and also again going back to the division and separation that you spoke of a few minutes ago. If you can keep people on the battlefield, then you know where they are.
Right.
We look at some of these stories, and I'm thinking to myself, how are they being delivered? I mean, okay, I'll give you an example of people not thinking about news and news stories. Let's say that there's a story that breaks, okay, on a local live newscast, okay. The person that's delivering that story knows nothing about the story. It's coming up on a prompter or a piece of paper, whatever it might be, and they're just reading from it without any background or context or anything. But what they're doing, and by doing that, is signing their name to it. They're saying that, I'm saying this, therefore you need to believe this, and I'm credible. When in all actuality, we don't even know where it's coming from. In the old days, it might be AP or UPI or some reliable news source where the stories were coming from. And then before it would actually hit the air, there would be a desk editor, there would be another editor, there would be people looking at it, making sure, because everything was on the line. You deliver a fake newscast in 1965, you were done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now you just go, oh, well, I guess
you missed it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah.
No
missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't lose your job. Just get back to work.
Right. Exactly. Just don't do it again.
Don't do it
And
again.
if you do, it's okay. We get you covered.
Well, as long as that person's in line.
Yeah.
And ultimately is doing the job of that's being desired by the, by their supervisors.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right about the news was a lot more whole. It was a lot more informative. But then I don't think we've ever really had a full, honest news reporting in our history.
No.
I just think it's degraded to this. And even back in the 60s and 70s, there was a lot of information that you were not being told. But we didn't know that.
Yeah.
The good thing is now we're aware. And the way we've become aware is because everybody's become their own little newsie.
Mm-hmm.
You have a phone, a camera. With social media, it's so much easier to see something and then report it. So therefore, it's a lot harder to create an event or do something in the public
Yeah.
in a way where there's just too many eyes and ears to see if there's something, funny going on with it.
Yeah. Too many phones, too many cameras.
Yeah. I don't want to... example would be, some of these shootings that have happened in the past. They want to get rid of the guns.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to sit here and say which ones are suspect, but several of them are. And it's factual. It's very easy. If you look at the information and follow the money, you can figure this out. It's not that difficult, but the news completely glosses over so many important facts that would tell you the truth. Yeah. And not only that, but they disregard them. And then if you believe them and you have a discussion with somebody, they'll go, oh, well, that's just hogwash. But you need to, why not entertain it? Entertain all the facts that are out there. It's going to add up to something, but you can't ignore facts that are involved in these things.
You know what's interesting for me with all of this is that it's almost like an addiction in a way. It's almost like a substance addiction, in that people will hear something, get caught up in the way that it was delivered, the way that it was presented, and they make their decision, Johnny on the spot.
Right.
And there's nothing you can do, nothing else you can present that can further your cause. They've already made up their mind. And the worst part about that is that it may not be true. Yet you have thousands, hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of people believing something that either never happened, never will happen, or had absolutely nothing to do with what was originally stated to begin with.
Right.
Yet they believe it. So what is it that they're drawn to actually believe something without fully investigating it?
And it's very evident. You'll see a person, so-called expert, being interviewed in a news story. So say you have the news company is a right-leaning or left-leaning. We'll just use that.
Mm-hmm. Leaning.
Yeah, we'll just leaning. We won't go all the way.
A leaning network.
Yes. They have a platform of, what they kind of believe. So they're behind a certain, thought. And they'll call in supposedly an expert who's supposed to counter the argument, right?
Right.
So here is where the news is at its finest, because what they're really they're there to discredit and disrupt this person.
Yeah.
They're the expert, but through not letting them talk, putting them down. Oh, you're a nutcase. What do you know?
Yeah.
And all this hand signals and language and the way that they present them, they never have a chance. So the thing is that it's further conditioning through the news that if there is an alternate idea or information, that this can easily just be wiped off.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what you think. You're stupid.
Yep.
Forget you.
Yep.
And then the news people are in control because then they can go, oh, I don't have any time left, or we're going to commercial.
Yeah.
And then cut them off and get them out of the studio.
Yeah.
But they have to do this because they have to appear to be non-biased.
Yeah.
When in fact everything they're doing is biased.
Sure. And they're the ones that brought in the expert.
Well, yeah. They
Well,
want
who
to
says
appear.
they're an expert?
Well, yeah.
So many
exactly.
times I don't even know who they are,
No.
but yet
Well,
they claim to be an expert. And so many times I can just hear by the sound of their voice, they're like 20 years old. Well, how are you an expert in anything at 20 years old?
Well, a lot of times these people are covers. Mm-hmm. They're assets. Yeah. And if you really drill down, if you go to like a CNN or certain, the big news stations, a lot of these people, if you check their background, they're tied to intelligence. There are people that don't think the CIA just hires spies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They have a whole cover, and they've infiltrated. Well, I would say that they probably have a news desk at these news agencies. I mean, there's a person there that's kind of like the stopgap for all that information.
Yeah.
And then I believe that
The concierge.
yes, and then they have these people that are also in the background in movie making, documentaries, anything. And like Netflix is literally kind of a front for propaganda.
And the largest network now anywhere.
Right. And when you turn off the news and you want to get away from the news, you're going to be conditioned through other means of entertainment because you're probably sick of listening to the news. Yeah. But they got you. Yeah. Don't worry. Wherever you go, they're going to find you. There's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide.
Exactly. The only way to really avoid any of it is just to disconnect.
Turn off.
Yeah. That's all you can do. You and I have talked about that a lot of times, particularly with me. I have a disconnect issue at times. Yeah. And, it would be best suited for me to just take a stroll in the woods.
My highlight yesterday was taking a drive in the country.
Yeah.
And no radio, nothing, just me humming with the birds.
And it's awesome.
It sounds, it was nice. It really was. It was greatly needed. And every day, and this is a little off track, but here, every day you need to take yourself out of yourself. Mm. You have to remove yourself from who you are. Completely disassociate from this body in a sense, and all your cares and worries and everything else. If you make yourself whole and happy, then ultimately that spreads to everybody else around you, and you'll be in a happier environment. Now, if you go into work and someone says, "Oh, you didn't see the news? What are you, living under a cave?" Well, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's unavoidable. Sometimes people will come to you and bring you the news even if you weren't seeking it. How's that? That probably happens a lot.
A lot.
Right. I meet people that, did you see? Oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. You go, well, I wasn't paying attention. I really didn't care, but they're going to bring it to you anyway.
And it's not because you don't feel for someone who's going through those things. It's simply because you do. You take it on.
But the point here is you're getting it even if you're not seeking it. And you know how you get it? Through subliminal messaging, conditioning, and a lot of it's through negative energy that's coming to you, and that's what it is. It's supposed to make your life worse. It detracts from who you are and your comfort zone. It wants to bring you down. It wants you to lose yourself, but not in the good way.
You entered this realm of subliminal messaging.
Yeah,
and subliminal advertising and subliminal marketing and subliminal news and subliminal this and subliminal that. They apparently stopped doing that in movies. Apparently. Yeah, when a little picture of popcorn would flash up in the corner or, a soda in the bottom left corner or whatever. And all of a sudden you were like, hey, I want some popcorn.
1957, the movie Picnic with William Holden.
Yeah.
That was the first time, I can't remember the guy's name, they spliced in eat popcorn, drink cola.
Huh?
That's it. That was there was subliminal messaging.
60 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or more. And so what happened was they put this in little snippets. So you didn't see it, but you saw it on a subconscious or subliminal. And all this comes into you on the subconscious. You may not notice it on an active conscious level, but you're seeing it, you're hearing it, something is coming into you. And on a subliminal message, it triggers a response. And that response was, maybe I'm hungry, maybe I'm thirsty. And so they increased sales of popcorn and soda during showing these movies with these subliminal things cut into it by 60, 70%. So it all comes down to greed. Somebody wanted to make more money.
Subliminal. I'm
Oh, okay. Yeah, what is it?
It's connected to sublime, but literally is rooted, the etymology is beneath the threshold of consciousness.
Right.
So it's coming in the back door.
Right.
It's if you don't guard the gate to the medulla oblongata, everything comes in.
Right.
And so a lot of this stuff is, like it says, beneath the threshold of consciousness. So you're not consciously awake or not awake, but aware of much of this. It's just going in the back door.
Right.
But
it sits there like a seed. It never goes. It's being recorded. Somehow, I believe in the higher dimensions, we'll understand that we've recorded everything we've ever done and everything we've ever said.
I have no doubt about that.
Yeah, somehow it just doesn't go nowhere. And I would love to be able to retrieve, what I did on this day or what I said as a matter of reference. That'd be wonderful. It seems like a power that would be above our ability. But I fully believe if we were fully, plugged in a higher consciousness, we'd be able to tap into all that.
Yeah, and you've seen even with Rain Man, he had the ability to recall every single thing that you would, for example, if you asked him who was playing a particular baseball game on a particular date, he could tell you who was playing, what their names were, where it was being played. I mean, just literally like a recording.
And possibly this person didn't need to actually sit down and study it or learn it. It just came to them.
Right. But came to them from that source of all that is, that matrix of consciousness.
Yeah.
And that's what, that's why I agree with you entirely. Everything's being recorded.
Our subconscious, though, can work with us or kind of against us. And unfortunately, a lot of our very deep-rooted fears house there. So when we come into a situation, we react very much like what we've been conditioned to react. And we're fearful of everything.
Yeah.
They're supposed to, they want us to feel separate, alone, when in fact we're all, connected.
Yeah.
But to get back to the subliminal messaging, it's been done mostly in advertising, a lot of commercials,
Movies.
and the more important conditioning comes with trying to take control of who you are.
Yeah.
You're generally maybe a good-hearted person, full of love and joy, and you'll watch a movie, and somehow this movie, even though maybe on a conscious and more importantly on a subconscious through subliminal messaging, is going to tell you, hey, it's not so bad to do some bad things. I mean, every movie, it's amazing now how heartless they really are.
Yeah.
And you see the human condition, how we treat other people in these movies.
Yeah.
It's not like it was in the old days. Maybe you had a couple mobsters and, people get shot up and stuff. There's a whole psychological warfare on your mind right now.
Yeah.
And it's all with these monsters and dark, very satanic, evil, negative, powerful messaging that's coming to you, whether you like it or not. It's limiting you.
Yeah, and it's making a decision for you and implanting it.
Yeah.
With or without your approval.
Exactly.
So that's where we really have to be super careful.
When you talk about the subliminal messaging, and it can come to you several different ways, but an example would be, and you see this lots of places, people will throw up the okay sign. Okay? Most people think this is a pretty innocent thing, hey, I'm okay.
Yeah.
But when you really look at it, and you can look this up on the internet, it's 666. And you go, well, what harm is that? I mean, so I saw a music video where someone is throwing up the 666 sign or saying okay, or maybe it's going to be the one eye, Illuminati type of screenshot.
Yeah.
When you see that, you're actually taking that on. And if it has a negative message to it, if it's part of a negative agenda of control, then it's affecting you.
Yeah.
It's taking a part of who you are away from you. And so when you subscribe to it and you go, oh, well, that's cool. And then you start doing it, through imitation.
Sure.
You're furthering this negative, harmful agenda.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, it's just an okay sign. But, there's meaning behind a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the meaning, that's where we find ourselves in trouble, because that particular peace sign or okay sign or whatever it might be, might just be a symbol. But there is definitely meaning that's been added to it. For example, the swastika,
right,
among the ancients was a very positive symbol. And then, of course, Hitler comes along and adopts the swastika.
Yeah, the double cross. This was actually it emanated through nature. It was a symbol of nature, and it was hijacked.
Yeah.
And so now, and I just learned this not too long ago from a woman who has amazing button collection of swastikas.
Yeah.
But they're not swastikas.
No, they're not.
She was telling me that because some of these patterns go back a long time ago and were made not only on buttons of clothing, but also, in fabric, artwork, and everything.
Yeah, and even if I remember correctly, swastika was the original Sanskrit word for what it was,
right,
and what it depicted. But again, we've changed the symbolism of that symbol,
right,
or the meaning of that symbol.
Yeah.
And we've done that with so many different things. And now those things are slowly creeping up in the subliminal advertising and the marketing and things that are taking place. We see what manufacturers have done. They've done research against certain types of people, certain people of types of background, income, education, all of those things, and then they take all that information and tally it all up, and then they design something to market directly towards what would appeal to these people.
Sure.
And take full advantage of it. It's not for their own good. It's not, it's not to sell them, a box of cereal that they would love. It's much deeper than that.
Well, there's a dual meaning that goes out to your subconscious. And, a great example of this would be they wanted to make it fashionable for women to smoke cigarettes because the cigarette manufacturers were only really selling to men.
Yeah.
So they had half the population they weren't selling to. Hey, so let's sell our product to women.
Sure.
So how do you get women to smoke? I mean, if
you make it look cool.
Yeah, you make it look cool. You make it look like it's fun.
KOOL.
Literally cool.
Yeah.
So back in the day, when advertising really was pretty much in its infancy, I think advertising might have started. Well, who knows where it started? It might have really started in production maybe the mid 1800s, but. Come around 1910, 1920s, people were starting to see flicks.
Yep.
Motion
pictures.
And then
the talkies.
Magazines. Cigarette ads and stuff like this. But what they would do is, if the cigarette ads weren't quite enough, where they would show a woman, glamorously smoking a cigarette, they would put this in the movies. And so they'd have, Constant Bennett, or one of your whoever it might be,
with the long extension,
with the cigarette,
gloves, and
Betty Davis, or all these movie actresses in the movies, not even really bringing attention to it. It's almost kind of very casual. You'll see that they'll just be holding a cigarette, whatever. But what this does is subconsciously says, "Wow, look how cool they look.
Yeah,
they're very glamorous. I would like to be like that.
Yeah,
that's for me." So then you'll go out and try to imitate this. Brilliant. I mean, it works, and it's all done without you even knowing it. There's advertising that hits you over the head, bam.
Yeah.
But then the better advertising is the one that kind of sinks in, and then you really kind of own it.
Yeah.
You know, you don't realize.
Yeah, because the trick to it is that, sorry to jump in on you there,
No.
but it's really important.
Jump.
The trick to this type of advertising is to, like, for example, there's only going to be so many TVs sold today. And no matter how good the ad is, no matter how low the price is, no matter how magical the offer is, if I don't need a TV today, I'm not going to buy a TV. But the real importance behind those ads is to keep that thought and keep that vendor or that store top of mind when you do want to buy the TV.
Right.
See,
That's
so
true.
that's what they're doing because they only know it doesn't matter. Like I said, it could be a TV for $5, you know. But if you don't need another TV, it doesn't matter. You keep the $5, you know.
Right.
But when you do need another TV, you're gonna be, well, where was that place that had these TVs for $5? And that's where you're gonna go.
Okay, so how in the old days,
Yeah.
they'd want you to remember that TV place.
Right.
So what did they do? They sold it to you. They wanted to appeal to your senses.
Yeah.
And guys buy TVs. So what do they? They somehow associate that advertising with either a macho message or a sexual message because sex sells.
Yeah.
It's sex is in advertising.
Yeah,
And
always
you may
has.
not, and they don't have to put a half-naked girl on top of the TV in order for you to associate buying that TV at that place with that.
Yeah.
But somehow there's something in there
Yeah.
that's going to make you, oh, yeah. Hey, I kind of like that. Maybe I'll go there.
Yeah.
You know.
And they do the same thing with so many different aspects of society. For example, you know, if it's let's say a beer commercial, they got to make sure that everyone is represented. You know, we got to have the redheaded guy, we got to have a black guy, we got to have this, we got to have that. You know, we have to have representation across the board so that we don't leave anybody out.
Well, that's a phenomenon that you're seeing more so today, and it's oh my gosh, it's just and the if you go into the week, I don't read the newspaper anymore.
Yeah.
But when you used to go into the newspaper, and on the weekends you'd go into the real estate section, and you'd see the advertisements. So you'd see an advertisement for a community, right?
Absolutely.
So one week, and no joking, they'd have a white couple and the kids and stuff.
Yeah.
And then the next week, it was the black couple.
Yeah.
And then the third week,
Then it
would
was
be-
a blended couple.
Yeah, blended couple, whatever. But now,
And it's disingenuine.
well,
They say they want to make sure everybody's covered, but really what they're doing is just going after people who think, well, that's okay, that fits me, and that's okay, and these people recognize me or my lifestyle or whatever it is, and then they just put that away and say, hey, 2 years from now, I remember that community. They advertised in the paper, and they had this pull-out brochure, and I remember those houses were nice, and let's go look there.
50 years ago, if they showed a mixed couple, you probably would have had a hard time getting people to move into that community.
Yeah.
Now
How
the PC
crazy
thing
is that? Yeah.
Yeah, and now the PC thing to do. I hate to use the word PC, but
Yeah.
the right thing is we're all people. It shouldn't really make a difference, but it's
Right.
unfortunately that advertisers have hijacked. I keep using that term, hijacked, but that's really what's happened here.
Yeah.
They've taken over the whole way you market.
Mm-hmm.
And is there a right way or a wrong way? Well, again, I've come to the conclusion that most advertising is just bad.
Yeah.
It's just they're all trying to get $1 from you.
Yeah.
And everybody wants it now.
Yeah.
With money flourishing, everybody's after you.
Yeah.
And
And
it's
for
that
example,
advertising dollar.
yeah, and for example, I mean, how many times have you seen a Rolls-Royce television commercial?
Yeah, you don't need to
Never.
advertise.
All right, because they're Rolls-Royce.
Yeah.
So I mean, they know what they have to offer, and they don't have to explain it to you.
Sure.
You don't want to. I can't afford a $5,000 brake job, so it's not within my range to go buy one. But we all know that Rolls-Royce is just the king of cars, yet they don't advertise.
Well, I think Bentley is.
Yeah,
I'll
Bentley is
debate
pretty
it.
amazing too.
Well,
I'll
but
be
you
with on
do
that.
see Mercedes and Jaguar ads and Volvo and
You do, but
BMW.
not more so today than you used to.
Yeah, more so than today because people have I guess more money, or they're trying to keep up with the
Yeah,
Joneses.
they've also lowered the prices. I mean, I don't want to get too far off subject,
Right, no.
but when I was growing up, you couldn't buy a brand new Mercedes for $32,000. It was impossible. But now you
Right.
can.
Yeah.
So that
Well,
that opens up a whole new field of stuff.
Well, and most likely they're buying it on credit.
Yeah,
So we're living
of
above our
course.
means. We're buying stuff that we don't really. Well, I mean, if you like a nice car, that's great. There's nothing wrong with it. And if you're out there and you just bought a brand new car and you're going, gosh, I should.
Yeah.
Maybe these guys are maybe thinking about this. No, don't feel guilty about it because you did what you did. The fact is that what it comes down to is you're being conditioned, you're being subliminally messaged to put yourself out of your maybe natural state into a hyper state of whatever it would be. But it could be just excitement, like, wow, look at that. That guy looks so happy driving that car.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be like him.
Yeah.
And you want to be like him, so you go out and you buy that same car.
Yeah.
Nothing really wrong with that. But here's where you can help yourself. It's when you can see it, when you can see that you're being manipulated, when you can actually understand and be aware of the messaging that you're getting, subliminally or not.
Yeah.
And then you can say, okay, well, is this real? Is this something I really want or not? Sometimes we do things off of impulse. Our subconscious gets the best of us.
Yeah.
So this is where taking time, slowing down, and using conscious thought. And unfortunately, it takes a little bit of work, but yes, you have to think about everything you purchase. It's really that critical because you're never gonna elevate to a conscious higher being if you're just not paying attention to little everything. And it encompasses everything you do and everything that you encounter on a daily basis. And this is why the news has so many people wrapped up.
Yeah, and it's been going on for a long enough time now that we have become anesthetized
Oh, yes.
to it. So you see a news story that it's just a blatant lie. Or you see a TV commercial that, this weekend only is the greatest time to buy this particular car, and that is until next weekend, And so you know that they're scamming you.
Yeah.
A lot of people do. They know they're being scammed, or it's an attempted scam. I'm not talking about just car spots. I'm talking about, the news stories, the product placement, department stores, grocery stores, all of everything that has to deal with consumers and marketing and such. And yet we just ignore it and just go right past it, rather than, we say, well, what are you going to do about it? You know what I mean? And that's a great question to look at for a lot of things. But so many times our hands are tied. Mm-hmm. So it's like, somebody might say, yeah, well, what are you going to do about it? Well, I can stop participating. I can choose to do that. If you, if there's a product that's being sold that you don't particularly want to endorse because you've heard of the labor, issues that are involved or whatever it might be, well, then just don't buy that product. We all know that we can vote with our checkbook,
Sure,
and our wallet.
Yeah,
and I think that's probably the biggest way that we have to affect something.
Yeah, but when you have that child in tow and they're going, please, Daddy, I want Daddy, it's tough to say no.
Right.
But there's a time and a place for everything.
There is, and so many times that time and place has been already decided for you.
Exactly. Yeah. So you don't even need to really think about it.
Yeah. You just move along. You just It's like I remember. I remember seeing a television commercial for a credit card several years ago, and everything moves along. Everything's great. Swipe and this and that, and ring it up and this and that, and then somebody whips out some cash, and the whole machine just crumbles.
Right.
Because, well, wait a minute, what are you doing? You can't do that. And you're stopping the whole system, And when you look at all of us now, in the old days, we had, we had gold at Fort Knox. We could support our money. with something that was tangible.
Is there gold at Fort Knox?
I don't know where it is anymore.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
But we came off of that a long, long time ago, the gold standard, and now we're just basically ones and zeros. It's just air money. It's all digital money. Imagine what would happen if a hacker got into a substantial bank account of a particular corporation or an entity and just zeroed them out. There would be no way of really knowing that.
And that could happen because it is all just electronics and computers and databases.
Yeah, it's just air.
Yeah. It may not even be written down anymore.
Yeah,
It's just all electronic.
and
it
so
could go away in
just like that.
just like that.
And so much of what we do is based on what we can't see, but we believe it.
Right.
So why are we selective of what we believe that we can't see? We have Ethernet, we have, Wi-Fi, we have, so many things that we don't see that we use on a regular basis. A cordless phone, a cell phone, whatever. We can't see the connection. We can't see any wires. But it works. So everything that we think, everything that's thrown at us through subliminal advertising, the sublime way of delivering a message and the news and things like that, it's just coming to us.
Right.
Most times not connected to anything.
Right. It brings up, again, getting back to the movies, there's a movie, 1987 or 86, maybe even before then, John Carpenter's They Live.
Okay.
Have you seen this movie?
I didn't see They Live. No.
Okay.
Big fan of The Thing.
Okay. Well,
It, was it It? Was that Carpenter also?
Yeah.
The Fog. I love The Fog.
He did
That was
some
cool.
really weird. You should just go out and maybe and get it. I won't spoil the whole storyline, but it's a perfect movie showing you what advertising and subliminal messaging does. But basically, you can put on these glasses.
Yeah.
In the movie, they're like sunglasses, and you're able to see through the advertising. So you'll see up a billboard up there, and it'll say, buy this, buy this.
Yeah.
But when you put the glasses on, it says, what it says obey, consume, follow.
Yeah.
So the sponsoring message behind all this is it's kind of an obedient consumer. They want you to spend your money. They want you to be in debt. They want you to be confused, and they want you to have a million things. Why? I don't know, but you're going to have a million things that you'll never even use.
Yeah.
And
they just basically hope that, you live long enough to just, live it out and be obedient through all that. You saw, you're a movie guy. What about Falling Down?
Oh, yeah.
So many times, so many of us reach that point where we just say, enough. I can't do this anymore.
Right.
And what was it that triggered
Michael Douglas.
Yeah, Michael Douglas.
Yeah.
And what was it that triggered him? The cost of the soda or something like that. That was the original trigger there. But it was decades of being stored up, that pent up anxiety.
Yeah.
And it finally snapped. And I think we're seeing a lot of that now with the shootings in the schools and all that stuff. I think what's taking place is people are just getting to the point of being on overload.
Yeah.
And they just can't take it anymore. And there's no way out. There's no exit. There's no door other than just disconnecting.
Well, they do have a door. And don't ever forget, there is an exit. There's always an exit.
Yeah.
And it's with you.
Yeah.
That's it. No one's going to show you the door or the exit.
Yeah.
It's all, it's all redirection of your own thoughts and how you want to digest all this information and how you want to react to it. So when you become,
but you think that most people feel that door does exist? Like I can show you the door, Neo, but you have to go through it, or do they just don't want to go through it? Is it fear based?
Just knowing there's an out. That's it, and then you won't drown.
Yeah,
it's because you do feel like that. I mean, when you're all consumed, and you don't know which way is up. That's a very heavy. I've been there. I don't even want to talk about it because it's just really tough to go there. You've been there. I've been there. A lot of people have been there.
Yeah, multiple times.
Yeah, I mean, you associate this kind of like with a panic attack or something. And you feel like you're just, no control. You're out of control.
Yeah.
But that's just you getting wrapped up with you.
Yeah.
And less is more. You're going to have to take some of the stuff off your plate when it comes to, I guess the best way to handle it, and I can go back and watch the news now, and I do it almost for enjoyment, because before
Entertainment.
yeah, entertainment,
Yeah.
and I watch it by contrast to see how these people talk about a certain issue or these people talk about a certain issue, but I felt like I've been able to rise above the fray of owning any of it. And I just kind of watch it and say, look how crazy these people are. They didn't talk about any of the real story, but I know that now.
Yeah.
Before, I was caught up in it.
Yeah.
So how does one get, to kind of maybe possibly, we can take the last few minutes here to kind of wrap up. How does one get through all this?
Yeah.
How does one take all the news bias in, or not, and live a happy, normal life?
I guess probably the one way would be just don't engage.
Well, put it this way: turning it off, like you said before, is probably the initial best response, because then out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
And that's actually probably a healthier thing.
Yeah.
You don't have to know, unless there's a nuclear bomb that's coming onto, your town,
Yeah.
or, there's something that's going on that affects everybody. But, in general, you don't
Somebody will generally tell you about that.
Yeah,
anyway.
exactly. Yeah. So there we go. Put it this way. You must have faith. And I hate to use the word faith, but you must have the knowing of knowing
Yes.
that whatever you absolutely need in this life
Yeah.
to take care of you will come to you when you need it.
Yeah.
Are you paying attention to it?
Yeah.
So you don't need to necessarily engage in all this horrible news if you don't want to. Now, most of the news nowadays is not even news, as we said. It's political rant. They find that this is the best way to get under our skin,
Yeah.
to unnerve us. And it makes a lot of people tune in.
Yeah.
But the consciously aware are tuning out.
Yeah.
And again, turn it off as best you can. Whatever vital news information that you need to survive will get to you.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah.
You don't know where it's going to come from, but someone's going to help you out and mention it to you. And if you don't need it, then at least you got it. But
Yeah. It's the news has become somewhat of a car wreck. People kind of slow down and they look and see and me, I'm not so much about. I don't want to see.
right.
I don't want to see roadkill. I don't want to see car wrecks. I don't want to see any of that.
But-
So I just keep driving.
But we have avenues now where people can comment now.
Yeah.
So that it's more than just that. So the second part of the puzzle is to not only turn off, but if you're perpetuating the same narrative,
Yeah.
whether supporting it or disagreeing with it
Yes.
on Facebook,
Yeah.
guess what? You're still perpetuating it. You're doing the same thing. You're guilty of the same thing that you're accusing others of.
Yeah. You're either
Plain and simple.
part of the solution or part of the problem.
Yeah, and more than likely, well, it's a problem right now we're having.
Yeah, it is.
The solution, I could be considered the brightest, smartest guy in the world if I could come up with a solution to all
Yeah.
this. Who knows?
And how to implement the solution.
Yeah, I think that the best thing you can do is it's all within you.
Everything.
And everything,
The macrocosm of the microcosm.
right? And if you feel that you don't want to be involved in any of this, it's up to you. So I guess then the third part of it is tune out or turn off. Then redirect. Don't perpetuate this.
Yeah.
And then what do you absolutely need in this life? And this gets kind of on the highest spiritual level. It's all nice to have all the nice accoutrements, fancy
Sure
this
is.
and that,
Yeah.
new clothes, everybody,
Yeah.
But what do you really, really need?
Yeah.
And then concentrate on that, because I think everything
And be
else-
grateful for that.
thankful, grateful, and understand that you're not alone, and you'll elevate to the highest you by putting and shedding all of this,
Yeah.
and understanding that you don't need to be conditioned anymore.
Yeah.
Whether through the news, through movies, and then when you finally come out the other side, guess what? You can go back and watch these movies on an entertainment level. You can, but you're aware of all this hidden messaging and all the dark stuff.
Yeah.
And you don't have to. You can just say, look, I see it. It still goes into your subconscious, but then again, you've labeled it.
You've labeled it. You've filtered it.
You've filtered it,
yeah.
exactly, and you know where it
categorized
comes from.
it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, instead of letting it run rampant.
And then what I do is sometimes I'm a baby. I used to be able to watch all this stuff, but a lot of the stuff nowadays is so graphic.
Yeah.
That I find myself just closing my eyes. There's certain things I just don't need to see anymore. I don't need to see somebody getting stabbed in the throat for the 100th time.
Right.
Sorry.
Right.
It's just not.
And for everyone, please don't share these things on social media. There are people that these are triggers.
Yes.
And so you want to talk about it, that's fine. Put it out there in words. Oh, this bothers me. But skip the graphic images and the live footage and things like that. And in fact, let's do a little challenge.
Sure.
I challenge everyone to keep it positive. If you're going to go on social media, and I'll take the challenge myself.
Okay, there you go.
You go on social media. If it's not positive, if it's not goodness, if it's not, love and things like of a positive nature, then just don't share it, don't spread it.
Sometimes we'll want to report bad news because we think we want to make other people aware of it, and we want to be the guy that kind of, hey, I'm showing you this, so I'm helping you out.
Mm-hmm.
But how does that? You may not be really ultimately helping anybody, and certainly maybe not yourself, especially if you're not a person that should be handling this stuff.
Yeah.
And you who are out there understand what I'm talking about.
Yes.
You don't need to be the guy that delivers all the bad news.
No.
Okay?
You don't need to be the first guy on the button.
Okay. Yeah. So what we're going to do is, and what we mean by putting out, if you're going to put something out there, put something in a positive way.
Sure.
And see how that is. And you know what? I bet you're probably going to get more positive responses. See?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But be careful. You're still going to get criticism no matter what. There's always going to be that one guy or girl that just wants to bring you down and say, those are beautiful flowers, but you know what? They're only going to live for another week.
I know, but they're beautiful flowers, but you killed them when you cut them down.
Yeah.
So just
you actually ruined their spirit when you took the picture.
Exactly.
You're an idiot.
All right, man. Thank you, sir.
Hey, it's been a pleasure.
Yep, always. And we will have another amazing topic.
Yeah.
Upcoming.
See you in the news.
Perfect. Thanks, man. Take care. Bye.
You've been listening to Quantum Flow Radio. Email us online at quantumflowradio@gmail.com.